Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 3 of Doctor Who. Before we get into it, let's get a little quote here from Ncuti Gatwick from the Business Insider. Ncuti Gatwick says he feels sad for those turning out of the new season of Doctor Who because of its push for diversity. Ncuti, first of all, we're not watching the show because it's terrible. It's terribly, terribly written. It's terribly acted. The 2 episodes I've seen so far have been terrible. And that's all before we even remotely dive into your comments and the things that you've said. Telling people to touch grass, don't watch my show. And now that people aren't watching the show, it's so sad that they're not watching my show. It's like, no. You told them, don't watch the show. So anywho, let's get into this. This is episode 3 of Doctor Who. Now, the episode starts off in a very, very weird way. It's actually really good and well done. Dialogue starts off fantastic, scenery looks nice, and I had to double and triple check to make sure I was watching the correct show. And it made me wonder, did they watch all the many reviews that people gave about the show so far? And they sat down and said, well, we have to make this episode good. We have to do right by the fans. And then as I was thinking that, I was very, very quickly disappointed. The episode starts off in a war-torn battlefield as 2 soldiers are trying to traverse this on-fire area. One soldier looks blind and the other one is leading them to safety. And even though there is an incredible tension in the air, the blind soldier takes a phone call from his daughter to make sure that she's brushing her teeth and doing her nightly duties. And again, I'm wondering, Russell T Davies, did you write this episode? But then after a very quick IMDb search, I found out that no, Russell T Davies did not write this episode. In fact, Steven Moffat wrote it. And he also wrote one of my favorite movies of all time, The Adventures of Tintin. And there is a lot of tension in this episode so far. We're informed that they're standing on an active minefield, and there's some kind of creatures in this area that they say blend in with the fog, so a lot of good things starting off on this episode. And then we cut to a military base, though, where a female soldier, Mundy, is trying to switch shifts with another soldier in exchange for showing him her tattoo that's in a very intimate spot. So it does not have the same Russell T Davies flair, but it's still garbage nonetheless. And Ncuti Gatwick wants to blame race and diversity of why no one's watching this show. Of course, the soldier agrees because he wants to see the tattoo, but she informs him that it's not finished yet. We then cut back to the 2 soldiers on the battlefield, and the one that's not blind steps on a landmine and is dematerialized. And as the soldier is being vaporized, then we see a small rover appear on the battlefield and go towards the blind soldier. It's some kind of medical droid that rolls up to them and shoots some spines at the soldier in order to identify who he is. And after informing the audience that he is blind for the next 4 weeks and deemed not combat ready, the machine vaporizes him just like the soldier that stood on the landmine. Is this what happens in the world of the military today? Oh, you're injured, so I guess we'll just blow you up? And as he's screaming in pain, we cut to the TARDIS for some reason on the battlefield, and the doctor comes out all dramatic saying, oh, did you hear that scream, Ruby? And then the doctor runs towards the scream, and when I say running, I don't think Ncuti Gatwick has ever ran before in his entire life and doesn't know how it's supposed to look, so it looks as ridiculous as you could possibly imagine. But then, oh no, the doctor steps on the same landmine that vaporized the other soldier. But thankfully, because of his plot armor, the landmine does not blow him up instantly. Apparently it hasn't fully armed yet or something like that. And since, of course, no one writing this show did any research at all, they just make the landmines look like Roombas for some odd reason. Now, of course, Ruby has to ask the obvious question to the doctor of, why did the landmine not explode when you stepped on it? And the doctor explains that the landmine has to now detect if there's a live target on top of it. As if that's an explanation at all. In the history of landmines, I mean, they just explode when you touch them, right? They don't have to confirm if there's a live target, and again, there is a live target on this thing. So why didn't it explode? You do see the issue here, though, where you're trying to explain why something's happening, and you do it in a really worse way. You could just say, oh, I didn't step on it with 2 feet, I didn't put enough pressure on it. You could say all these other things, though. But you said essentially nothing, and passed that off as an explanation. And then Ruby asks an extremely obvious question of, where are we? And the Doctor then says, in the middle of a war, all nonchalantly. So, why are you people here, though? Why would the TARDIS just be on this planet? Does the TARDIS just continuously move throughout time and space on its own? Did they just put the coordinates into this? Why are you on this planet? We're 8 minutes into this episode. Ruby even says, oh, I was hoping this was a beach. And the Doctor says, oh yeah, it'll be a beach eventually. What is the writing on this episode? The Doctor's asking Ruby to describe the landmine. She tries her absolute best, and then she asks the question of, why does a landmine have lights on it? And then, of course, we get the usual Doctor Who politics by the Doctor saying that the reason why there's flashing lights on this landmine is because of capitalism. Because flashing lights look better in a showroom. Is anyone that's involved in the writing or directing or anything of this episode ever see what a landmine looks like in any video game whatsoever? They don't really look bright and flashy and give away their position. Usually they're hidden and covered with stuff. This landmine is also invisible. That's why he stepped on it and so did the soldier. They literally did not see it. And then the landmine just exposes itself for some reason. And then we get a little bit of explanation of why the landmine hasn't gone off yet. You have to step on it hard enough for all the lights to go completely around this thing, and Ruby has informed the Doctor that all the lights have not touched yet. So they have a 4-finger head start. And then the Doctor starts explaining, oh, I know where these landmines have come from. It's from one of the biggest manufacturing places on the planet. And then he talks about some lesbian that he knows. Just randomly goes off on, oh yeah, I knew this lesbian and we just deactivated underwater. It's like, where are you going with this? Why? Who's getting paid to write these episodes? And then the Doctor realizes that he's monologuing for some reason, and then goes back to the urgency of what's going on right now. But then we get a weird character change from the Doctor. He tells Ruby to go across the hill and find out who was screaming, because the Doctor is here to save people. Did we get a sense of that from the first 2 episodes? That his mission was to really save people? He again informed us in episode 1 that he has no boss, no taxes, no responsibilities. He's just completely free. And now it's, oh, I'm on a landmine, but Ruby, quick, go across the hill and find the person that was screaming, because that's more important right now. An odd character turn, right? What if the man was screaming in danger, being attacked? What is Ruby supposed to do about it? And as the Doctor's ordering Ruby to go very carefully and go the long way and watch your step, I'm thinking, wait a second, you just stepped on an invisible landmine. Why would you send this woman that knows absolutely nothing about landmines or this world that you're on to go further into the landmine field to fight potential dangers? Wouldn't you tell her, oh, go back to the TARDIS, grab the sonic screwdriver cell phone Palm Pilot looking thing and come back here and we'll just screw with the frequency of the landmine and give myself a second or 2 to jump off? Any of these ideas, why would you send her off to try to solve a problem when you, the Doctor, are currently screwed? And then as Ruby's getting herself out of the hole, though, he explains in very long detail of what he has to do to get off this landmine, look for a very big rock, and it's going to have to be a simultaneous thing like in Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark, though, where they're going to throw this rock on there as he jumps off at the same time. But it's like, don't you have equipment that could just disable it? You're the Doctor. Again, right? Shouldn't you know what to do here? Because I really do feel like using the sonic screwdriver and screwing with the frequency of this, or, I don't know, using some kind of cold ray or something, that should exist in the show, right? Give it like a second or 2 before you jump off? I don't know. It's really bad writing, guys. And as Ruby is exploring, the Doctor says, oh, do you see anyone up there? And Ruby says, oh, it's just some flashy light thing. Excuse me, you have absolutely no idea What is going on this planet? Anything other than a rock could be a potential threat to you. And you see this robot standing there menacingly, and you're like, oh, it's nothing. And then we see some ships fly up ahead, but don't worry, dear viewer, these ships are not here to attack them. They are here to simply, as the doctor says, hoover up the fog, so then people could be nicely shot afterwards. They have ships in the future that their sole purpose is to suck up the fog on a battlefield. We're about 11 minutes into this episode so far, and we could have probably removed a good 5 or 6 minutes from this already, of filler. And as Ruby is staring into the vastness of the area, the doctor then says, oh, I forgot, it's your first time on another planet, so take a second to look in the sights and the sounds of everything. He is standing on a landmine, right? That if he sneezes or hiccups in the wrong direction, he might explode. Ruby picks up an odd object off the ground, and the doctor informs her that there is a body inside of it. That a soldier has been smelted, and then he goes over how cool the word smelted is. And then we get a really, really great moment out of Ruby. The doctor tells her to toss me the urn with the person in it. At the right moment, he's going to catch it and put his foot down to counterbalance it, because I think his foot must be getting tired or something like that, though. And Ruby says, no, I'm going to walk over and give it to you. And I really did like this moment of bravery, because of course the doctor's telling her, no, Ruby, don't do this, I forbid you, you might get blown up in the explosion. And then she says, well, let's make sure this doesn't go wrong then. Is it possible that this episode is actually making Ruby look like a good, well-written character? Because so far, we really haven't gotten many good things out of Ruby. She's just along for the ride, contributes very little. There's, of course, an air of mystery with her mother and everything like that, and the circumstances of her being abandoned. But other than that, though, we really don't get a lot of really great, solid writing for Ruby at all. But then, of course, they screw it up, though, because Ruby decides to walk closer and closer to the doctor when she could just reach her hand out, stretch even. But I'm going to be directly on top of him to make this exchange. And for some odd reason, this scene goes on forever. Just the doctor telling her, oh, you're so, just if anything happens, you're so brave, and if I survive this, I'm going to be very cross with you. It almost seems like they're trying to form a relationship here between these two characters, but obviously that's not going to happen. But it does seem like they're really, really leaning on it at this moment, with the way they're looking into each other's eyes with the music being played. I'm not really getting friendship from the way they're trying to portray this scene. But just a few seconds before that, the doctor was explaining that, oh, my blood pressure might go up, though, and the landmine could sense the slightest bit of change, and then he starts crying and shaking because he's so emotional right now. And then he's like, alright, cool, we're gonna count to 3, and Ruby says, no, can we go with something more rhythmic? Like a song, she says, sing a song. Woman, he's standing on a landmine, we don't have time for this. They go on for almost a full minute talking about a song that the doctor was humming early on in the episode when he was first standing on the landmine. That we are going to use this song because it is sad and blah, 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 blah. Again, he's standing on a landmine and he's starting to cry and he's already freaking out that, oh, my blood pressure might go up and set this thing off, but let me just do other things too. Why are the writers so bad at this? They do some good things right, though. Like I said, the first 2 minutes of this episode were very, very well done. And dare I say, I thought this was so good that it was a different show entirely. But then, of course, I'm reminded that, yes, this is Disney Plus's Doctor Who. And they want to continuously remind us of that. Remember how I just said a few seconds ago that this scene goes on for a full minute? That was just the lead-up to the exchange on the landmine. Then we get the song. So the doctor, on a landmine, nervous that his blood pressure might set off the landmine, starts singing a song. And then as the song commences, she hands the doctor the human body inside this little tube, and he puts his foot down. It worked. But then trouble, the landmine, the bars start filling up. And the doctor says, oh, it's okay though, it's just my adrenaline trying to calm myself down. Ruby goes, oh no, it's still moving. He's like, please stop saying that, it's moving. It's like, woman, shut the hell up. And then as the doctor is trying to calm himself down by singing something, The bars keep going up. So now he's like a finger and a half away from exploding at this point, though. And then a massive, massive problem happened with the filming of this episode. The doctor looks at the tube and says, "Oh, thank you, John Francis, whatever." And a hologram of the man appears, and the doctor shifts his weight visibly and doesn't explode at all. But the hologram informs them that, "Yes, I am dead. Please return my remains to my family." And then, of course, we get, what a shock, more politics. As the hologram informs the doctor and Ruby that, "Oh, I was deemed unfit for battle because having a patient is more expensive than just a corpse." And I'm just left wondering for a second, what is the significant reason of why politics are inserted into our TV shows and movies? Everyone here listening to the sound of my voice right now, I don't think any of us, realistically, have any power other than a singular vote to change things in the world of politics, right? So, why is the doctor, why are the writers, why are the showrunners explaining to me how bad war is and how expendable soldiers' lives are and how expensive healthcare is? I know that. I fully understand that things cost money. Why are you telling me this? Shouldn't you be telling the people that are in charge of things that are sending men and women to go die for causes that they may or may not believe in? Sending them off to countries that we can't even find on a map to fight and die in battlefields and the remains may never be returned home at all? Why are you telling the average person? That's why I was kind of wondering what the idea of the movie Civil War was, though. To warn us that, yes, certain things may happen. It's like, okay, what am I supposed to do about this other than vote? But then, oh no, as the hologram fades away, the soldier's daughter appears on the battlefield. How did she get here? Why is she here? How did she leave a military installation without anyone noticing and allowing her to leave? And as she's asking, "Where is my father? I just heard his voice," the doctor starts questioning of why is a sweet little girl in a war zone like this, and apparently her dad had special permission to bring a child to an active and violent war zone? Is that something that our military can do? I mean, we just had a whole speech about how a soldier who was injured is costing them money, so it makes more sense to just kill them. But let's have a child that needs food and provisions and uses resources. Let's have her on the battlefield too, because, you know, the plot demands it, because we have to get this sad scene, I guess. Again, it almost seems like, I said this in my other two reviews of it, it seems like they have the political view that they want to go with, and then build the episode around it. And every single time so far, in all 3 episodes, it has worked out so poorly for them. And so clunky with the writing and the dialogue and the setup and everything. There is nothing that is going right with these political messages at all. And as they're, again, questioning this young girl while the doctor is standing on an active landmine, she explains that her mother has been gathered up by God. Because apparently God loved her so much that he gathered her up so she could be in heaven with him like an angel. What the hell is this writing? Another continuity error here. The doctor introduces himself and Ruby while visibly moving on this landmine that's going to explode in a finger and a half of pressure. This is not the time for introductions. This is not the time for these moments at all, though. It feels like I've seen this movie. It was called Mine, okay? It stars some guy that may be a supposed cannibal, and he steps on a landmine, and the whole movie is him standing on this landmine, and they only have, realistically, about 40 minutes of usable footage of him on this landmine that they have to then, of course, go with flashbacks and then dream sequences and all these other filler things. This episode right here, from what I'm watching so far, we're at the 19-minute mark. We had about maybe 7 minutes of actual good plot and usable dialogue. The rest, all filler. Then, of course, he introduces himself as the doctor, and the little girl says, the doctor's not a name, and he's like, I'm not really a doctor. And it's like, who the hell cares here? Who cares? But, of course, her name is Splice, and she has the audacity to question anyone's name in the entire galaxy. And then, in a moment of sheer incompetence, Splice says her full name, and the hologram appears. And the daughter, who fully knows that her father is not a hologram, goes, "Oh, Daddy," and runs down to hug the clear hologram of her father. And of course, the doctor starts freaking out, so the pressure on the landmine goes up. And of course, Ruby grabs the daughter because she's going to run into this hologram, and the daughter's continuously trying to wrench herself from Ruby's grasp, as again, this clear hologram is speaking like a robot to her, and she for some reason thinks that, yes, this is my father. Where's the logic in the writing going with? Shouldn't it have been of, she says her name fully, the hologram appears, and then she instantly realizes that, oh my god, my father is dead. Especially since the father hologram man said, next of kin. Implying that, oh, I am dead. We could have had a moment of her standing there, seeing her hologram father and realizing, oh, you're dead. And then she has some kind of a cry or something like that, and Ruby has to console her. But no. Let's have her and Ruby have a fight next to the landmine as the doctor is trying his absolute hardest to not freak out. Doctor Who Episode 3, people. How in the hell is Ncuti Gatwick blaming diversity of why people have given up on the show? But then for some reason, the doctor starts glowing as if the energy field from the landmine is starting to go into his body. And as we're seeing the little ticks of the landmine start to slowly rise, then someone turns on a flashlight to confront them. And then all of a sudden the doctor is calm as a cucumber. The soldier is the woman that was going to show the tattoo to that guy, though. And I guess she went out here to find Splice and decided the best thing to do is to confront this dude as he's standing on a landmine. She even acknowledges that, yes, I understand what the doctor is standing on right now, but I don't care. What is wrong with this military? Why are they all so bad at their jobs? And Mundy even says, I'm fully apprised of what he's standing on, yet she's going to continuously shout at the doctor and make the situation more tense. Mundy explains that she's an ordained Marine. There's a lot of religious undertones in this episode that I really didn't catch at first, though. The hologram looked like he was dressed as a priest. I really didn't understand where they were going with this at first, and some of the dialogue early on was swearing on their souls. So I'm wondering, is this going to be a Bastion of Religion episode as well? And as she's questioning the doctor, wondering if he knows what the sacred remains he's holding in his hand are, she gets a phone call and says, "Oh, did you like the tattoo?" We have such massive changes in tone in this episode. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish with this episode, but as usual, it has failed massively. And of course, we get a minute-long conversation about, oh, I'm worried about you, you're out there, and Mundy's like, oh, you don't even like me. It's like, what is going on? Is this written by 12-year-olds? What is going on with the level of quality with Disney Plus these days, though? It's all bad. It's all bad. Bob Iger right now is waking up every single day sweating bullets, wondering what is he going to do with Disney Plus, because people are tuning out to it. The only things that people are realistically enjoying are all the old things. The things that were written with care and dedication to their craft, because now everything coming out of this company these days is nothing but crap. And of course, with the theme of this episode of nothing but filler, the doctor's asking Mundy, tell me about this silly war you guys are fighting, and tell me about the bad guys and stuff like that. Can't you guys just stick to the matter of hand of, he's standing on a landmine? Can we get maybe this figured out? Because any second now, he can sneeze, and the episode's over. Or not over, because he's been moving this entire time, and the landmine has not remotely gone off since. And then, of course, Mundy gives the worst explanation of what these things they're fighting are. She says they're in the mud, We've never seen them before. That's what some people think they are. So you're fighting a war against an unknown enemy that you cannot see at all. Why is the Doctor on this planet to begin with? Don't you know the coordinates you're putting in and the time you're doing? Hasn't the Doctor lived through the end of time and all of existence entirely? So I'm so confused here. I'm moving on. I'm sorry. And then we are informed of a ticking clock scenario. Apparently, the landmine has a failsafe on it. Doesn't matter or not, if the Doctor initiates all the lights on it, the landmine is going to explode in a certain amount of time, though. Either way, and Mundy informs them that he's dead anyway. So I guess this is the last episode of Doctor Who, because how could you possibly save this man at this point? But then Mundy is very annoyed that the Doctor is not dropping this casket, so she does the only logical thing, shoots him in the arm. And of course, the landmine does not blow up because the Doctor is in full control of his body at this moment. We get a quick explanation of what this landmine does. Apparently, it fills your DNA with explosives or something like that. It's really stupid, but he explains that I'm a Time Lord, I'm not a regular person, so I should be fine. Mundy decides to shoot him again. And, of course, the landmine does not remotely trigger as the Doctor is moving while being shot. And the Doctor informs her that I am this different biological being, so when I explode, I will take this entire battlefield with me in the blink of an eye. So yeah, this is a bigger deal than they're trying to tell us. So why did we wait 20 minutes to get this big revelation? And as Mundy does a very quick scan of the Doctor, she informs the audience that you could blow up half of this planet. 25 minutes in, people. This might be worse than the other 2 episodes. Also, we haven't been told how long until the landmine blows up. That seems to be something that you should have relayed to the audience a lot sooner, right? And then the dreaded ambulance bot shows up, though, and they tell Mundy to shoot it. But then she says, oh, I can't, the algorithm won't let me. Just nothing but plot conveniences. That's what the writer of Doctor Who is these days. Plot armor, plot conveniences, bad jokes. That's all we got here. And again, Ncuti Gatwick is using diversity as the reason why people aren't watching this show anymore. But then the ambulance bot shoots the Doctor, and again, he moves his weight, and the bomb doesn't go off. And Splice yells for her father's name for some odd reason, and the hologram appears, and he informs Splice that, oh, you seem kind of stressed, you want to look at some photographs from better times? And Splice smiles and just sits on the ground, and looks at photographs from this hologram. It's like every second of this episode just gets worse and worse. But then Ruby has the most genius idea ever. That, oh, this robot is triggered by combat. So she grabs Mundy's gun and runs to a hill and starts randomly shooting. And Mundy tells Splice to just sit here. As Splice is just looking at the photos and not even remotely acknowledging that her father is dead. But then Mundy informs Ruby that it's not just combat, it has to detect an injury, so shoot me. And even though Mundy said she put the gun on the lowest setting, Ruby, for some reason, for 20 seconds, just keeps saying, no, I don't want to shoot you. But then as Ruby's right about to fire at Mundy, then comes the dude that saw the tattoo, and guns down Ruby like a dog in the streets. And the Doctor, of course, has a freak out, and yet the mine does not explode. Now, I don't know if this is a spoiler, because I am doing this live as I'm watching this. I heard, and I don't really know how true this is, though, that they replaced the character Ruby with a more diverse and inclusive character. So the whole time I'm like, okay, so is this the episode they get rid of Ruby? Is this the episode they get rid of Ruby? So this might be the episode they get rid of her entirely, because, I mean, she did just get shot and everything. And then the Doctor starts crying, but of course doesn't remotely set off the mine. And then as Ruby is laying there dying, we get Snow. A third episode in a row where we're introduced to Snow for some odd reason. And the soldier informs them, oh, that cannot be Snow, it never snows here. It's like, bro, the entire field of battle is covered in debris and garbage and smog and dust and everything. and you're questioning some flakes in the sky? And the doctor explains, don't worry, as long as there is snow, there is hope. And then the snow freezes instantly in the sky. Because the ambulance bot informs us that Ruby is dying and will be dead in about 432 seconds. And as the doctor is trying to regain his composure, the landmine starts activating more. And the landmine is one tiny little bar away from exploding. It just kind of makes you wonder, right? Like, does our military have the capabilities of disarming landmines? Like, if someone in the Middle East steps on a landmine right now, and you're surrounded by soldiers, do they have any way of solving this problem? Do they have anything that we can use to stop it from exploding? Give the soldier a second or two to jump out of the way or something by, I don't know, trying to freeze it? Is that something that we haven't figured out the technology for? Because this show takes place in the future. And again, we have the TARDIS, we have the sonic screwdriver, we have all these futuristic devices, and you're telling me that neither doctor nor soldiers have any way of just turning off this landmine. But then, of course, we get a hitch. They want to revive Ruby, but the ambulance is not programmed to help non-believers. Where the hell is this episode going? And then Mundy informs the audience that we have 5 minutes or less, with 15 minutes left to go in this episode until this landmine explodes. So let's see how they hold true to that statement. And for some reason, Mundy keeps asking the doctor, what do we do? Like, aren't you the soldier? Aren't you the one that just said a few minutes ago, oh, there's nothing you can do, the landmine's just gonna explode at this point? But then the doctor has the absolute greatest plan in the world of how to stop this landmine from blowing up. He says, surrender. Give up. Because, as the doctor says, it's your landmine. So, once you guys give up and stop fighting entirely and acknowledge that you lost, the landmine will deactivate. This isn't dead air. I am trying to figure out what to possibly say with that statement. Is that, anyone that's ever served in the military, would you please inform me, is that how landmines work? If you just say, okay, we're done here, they all just decide to go, up, I guess I won't explode then. And then we get a very, very long speech about capitalism and buying and dying, because the doctor questions that when you guys come to a planet, you announce your presence by firing into the sky or some crap like that, though. So the doctor tries to have this philosophical discussion with Ruby, who is clearly knocked out and clinging on to life barely, potentially in a coma, from being fired upon by these lasers that didn't really do much to her. What is she even dying of? Oh, but then we get the big revelation that there is no enemy on this planet. That the soldiers, for months and months and months of fighting, have been fighting zero enemies this entire time. That they just go to a planet, declare war, soldiers die of landmines and other things, so they could just keep funneling the funds into the capitalistic regime that is warfare. And just Please, audience, please stop me when I sound ridiculous here. So that's the entire motivation behind this episode of like, oh, we're just gonna keep going to war for no reason at all, and just people die for no reason at all, so we could keep funneling money into the military. And it's amazing that the doctor knows that there is no fighting force here at all, as he's on this planet that's clearly ravaged by war. Do you think that a military just showed up here and started dropping bombs and scanning? I mean, the Mundy scanner instantly knew what the doctor's biology was, though. So you're telling me that, so this military outpost has been here for 6 months and has been fighting nobody, and none of their scans have turned up a single solitary thing, yet at the same time we started off with 2 soldiers that were clearly battle damaged, one blinded from warfare. What were they fighting this entire time? Oh, then we get the line of politics that any army in the world would realize that they're fighting nothing but smoke and shadows, but these people are blinded by fate. There it is. I knew the religion bashing was going to happen eventually, and there it is. And then the doctor says the magic word that stops you from thinking for yourselves. Who would write that? What a ridiculous line. Also, Doctor, I'm very curious of your views on the Quran and other religions as well, particularly those that have a menorah. You want to take a crack at those two religions, Doctor? And then it gets worse and worse and worse because Mundy asks the Doctor to prove it, and he says, oh, now you want proof of things. And then the Doctor has the greatest plan of all time. He calls for the John Francis AI to download himself into the battle network and scan the entire planet and inform them that there is no enemy here, though. And of course the AI says, I can't do that. So the Doctor says, oh, well, just plug yourself into the ambulance robot. Because the ambulance robot is connected into me, and I'm currently holding your coffin, so this clearly supersedes the firewalls that have been put into place right now. Okay, this is the writing of Doctor Who. And again, Ncuti Gatwick is claiming diversity as the reason why people are not tuning into the show. But then, as the AI again questions that I cannot do these things, it is against my protocol, the Doctor tries to negotiate with the AI's programming, pleading with him that he is a father. So therefore, this AI, have you ever spoken, anyone in the audience right now, have you ever used anything like ChatGPT or Character.ai? They can outright say, no, I cannot process this information you're giving to me. No, I cannot have a request that's against any of my programming at all. That's just with a simple character AI. And you're telling me the military AI, you're able to negotiate with it. So it'll go against its entire programming and betray its own programming and do what you say is the right thing to do is. And then the AI decides to, yes, I'm going to listen to the Doctor. And the Doctor asks Mundy, how much longer until this thing explodes? And Mundy says about 3 minutes. And the Doctor smugly says thoughts and prayers. I really hope that everyone involved in the show entirely never makes a single dime in the world of cinema for the rest of their lives. You guys have clearly earned every single negative review to go out there, episode 3, with a religion bashing episode. It doesn't matter what you believe in. Let's just remove that from the equation entirely. How absolutely rude it is to have an episode that does nothing but bash a religion. Can you imagine thinking that this is the right thing to do? And yes, this is going to bring more people to watch my show. Let's just bash their fates. And again, as usual, Doctor, I am very curious of your views on the Quran. Please tell me what they are. Because if you bash that for a single solitary second, we all know what would happen. And then we get a really, really long, dumb 12-year-old conversation between Mundy and the other soldier, the one that wanted to see her tattoo because he secretly likes her. And she's like, why do you want to see it? Why do you care about me? Just absolute filler as usual. Doctor Who, what a disgusting, stupid show out there. I hope they make $0 going forward. And then the soldier, Cantor, admits that, of course I like you. Why would I come out to find you and try to save you? Again, there's a landmine that's going to blow off and blow up about half the planet. And this is what we're focusing on? And more importantly, the Doctor's plan is really, really dumb of, yes, let's just lose the war, and that would just disarm the landmine. If I'm not mistaken, Mundy explains that only the bishop is capable of declaring a surrender. So, wouldn't the bishop thus be involved in this master plan? I mean, you're not really sending the generals in there with 0 orders at all. Because, I mean, in order for this to work, though, that means you're sending in all these generals and all these soldiers and all these commanders and all these people into an area that you fully 100% know has 0 enemies at all. And you're telling me that no one higher up knows the secret plan, that there's only like one super secret person that knows all this and he's pulling the strings of everything? Like, you're telling me the bishop in charge of this army is not privy to what's going on here? But then, of course, we cut over to, again, Mundy and the soldier talking about that he likes her. But then the soldier realizes something. As if manna from above. He thinks, wait a second, you must like me too then. But then as the soldier is still playing with the ambulance robot, a glitch happens and a spark knocks Mundy to the ground. And she can't find the soldier even though he's speaking to her. And he is now a hologram. So he exploded. So they just killed off this dude in the most anticlimactic way possible. The music didn't even really adjust to this moment. And he just shows up as a hologram. It's like, oh, I want to give you this message that I've always loved you. It's like they went out and said, okay, here's how we're going to write this episode. We are going to do everything wrong at the same time. And we're just going to pound through all these terrible, terrible ideas as fast as possible because we only have about 40 minutes. And again, as this hologram is confessing his love for her and says things like, it's okay that you don't love me back, it's okay because I love you, I'm still reminded that the doctor has been standing on this landmine for well over the allowed time period that they said earlier in the episode. So, what's going on here? And the doctor then offers his condolences. And at that point, I'm like, shut the hell up. And then the doctor realizes that, no, the ambulance killed him. And the ambulance is involved in this war effort to keep the war going on forever. And we see a bunch more ambulance robots appear around them. And then John Francis Bacon's hologram goes away and is replaced with the ambulance robot's AI and informs us that, yes, his AI has been deemed a threat, so has been permanently deleted forever. And of course, the doctor looks sad over at Splice for some reason, as if he remotely cares about any person in this situation besides Ruby. But then, things get worse, as the landmine informs the audience that I'm going to explode in 10 seconds, and the doctor tells Mundy and Slice to run. But what's the point? You have just informed us earlier that you are going to take half the planet with you. I don't know about you guys. Actually, I might be able to. I don't know if I could outrun an explosion like that, though, but I get close. So they decide to sit on the ground and, dare I say, accept their fate. And then we get the 10-second countdown, and the doctor informs the audience, thankfully, that it's all over after this. But then as we count down to 1, and the landmine says in Francis Key Scott's voice, kiss, kiss, a thing he always said to his daughter, the AI has won. He has infected not only the mine, but all the ambulance bots entirely, and has beaten them at their own game. And even better, the ambulance bot now revives Ruby back from, I guess, the kinda dead? Because she was dying this whole time. It's been a lot longer than 400 seconds. That's what the robot said she was going to die in. So, they didn't even remotely stick to their own timetable at this point. And then Splice asks the question, what happened? And the doctor says, your father, who art in heaven. Like, was the goal of this episode to be as absolutely disrespectful as humanly possible to people of the Christian faith and the military? It just seems like, hey, let's just bash everyone at the same time. And the doctor informs the audience that the entire military has been beaten up by this kid's father. That this AI, with the power of love, somehow infiltrated every single firewall the military has and beat them entirely. And then the day is saved. The doctor dances around as he does every single episode, and then informs Splice that, oh, I'm so sorry that your father's dead. And she says, why are you sorry? He's not gone, he's just dead. And the doctor then says, that's good, keep the fate. And Mundy says, I thought you don't like fate. And he says, just because I don't like it, doesn't mean I don't need it. I don't know what's going on here with the writing. What do you want me to feel? They have no idea. Like, episode 1 of Space Babies. Okay, so you want to destroy the monster downstairs, yet at the same time, you want to explain that it's a life. Not a human life, well, kind of a human life, that it's worthy of living. So it was like, are we pro or choice? What are we going on here, though? It kind of felt like that was what they were trying to go with, but it didn't make any sense. And now this one, okay, so you're blinded by fate, yet you should still have fate because it keeps you going. So I'm left here wondering what the hell we were supposed to get out of this episode as an audience. And isn't it kind of weird that Jinx Monsoon was saying to us in the media that maybe you should like a TV show that teaches you something? What is this episode teaching me? It doesn't teach me anything. Oh, military money is bad and places destroyed? Yeah, I knew that. That's obvious. I don't think I need a childishly written TV show to understand that war may not be that great of a thing and kind of cringe at times. But thank you for explaining that to me. And they all say their goodbyes, and the doctor informs them that, yes, I will be stopping by, and fish fingers and custard is my favorite. So I'm kind of new to this whole Doctor Who franchise entirely, but are we eventually going to get like a Mandalorian type of season finale where he goes on all these adventures and then in the season finale, all the characters that he met along the way show up? Is that what's going to happen? That everything we met, like we're going to get the Space Babies, we're going to get the Maestro, we're going to get Mundy and Splice. Are we going to get all of them in the finale? I'm just spitballing here. And then we get a very tender moment of, oh, it's okay, Splice lost her father, but we're all dead in the end eventually, and we're all kind of dead now at times. With some really, like, uplifting piano music? Are you people that are writing this show just so devoid of any happiness at all that this is what you have to resort to? And then this analogy just keeps going on and on and on, so was the idea of this episode, let's insult religion, the military, and bum out the audience the entire time? I'm very curious of what goes on in these writing rooms. And that's the episode. What an absolute disaster. What a disgusting display of just poor writing, poor politics, religion bashing. Again, as usual, not bashing the other ones. Just bashing the ones that it's okay to bash publicly, I see. Again, very curious of how they feel about certain other religions. And again, I am questioning what is happening to all these soldiers on the battlefield that they keep getting injured and killed by ambulance bots. Like, but what a disaster. There are so many questions about this, but I don't want to just keep rambling on and on. Thank you guys very much for watching, and let me know what you think.